Everybody, this is another installment of AI with Honor, and I wanted to talk about the typical things that people are wondering, especially in my age group in their 50s. What is artificial intelligence all about? And earlier, I crawled down a little bit of a rabbit hole with my real estate update when I was talking about the Santa Clarita market, and then I went off on a little bit of a tangent talking about sellers and buyers maybe taking these offers that they make and that they receive and plugging them into a large language model, which is another term for ChatGPT and these other systems out there. Now, if you don't have the paid for system, that's great. That's fine. I'm not sure if the other systems that you don't pay for will allow you to copy and paste what text you might find in a PDF form of a contract, real estate contract, or something of that nature. Maybe it's an offer that you as a seller are receiving from agent that's representing you, basically showing you what people have sent with regard to your property. But it's really a good idea to maybe get some other eyes on this. And of course, you have your real estate professional like me. You've hired them because you trust them. Maybe they've explained to you the way the market is. Maybe you've been following them on social media. Whatever the reason you selected said agent, maybe you went through a syndication system, or maybe you just saw online that some of these real estate websites that of course are sponsored, so they're paying for placement, they say that they have the best agents in the world, and maybe that's another reason you have chosen this particular individual. But it's not a bad idea to take whatever they put together and double check it in the system. Now, of course, it's something that you wouldn't take as gospel, because as far as accountability goes, there is a tendency to maybe have hallucinations. I know that whenever I'm having it work on documents, it'll tell me if I'm asking for a 2 or 3,000 word article, it might give me something that has 875 words, but yet it comes back and it says it has the 2 or 3,000 words that I've asked for. So that's a hallucination. And then I ask it and say, I might inquire again and say, well, that's not the 3,500 words you said it was. It's only 978 words. It'll say, oh, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Here's the article. And then I plug that into a word counter, and now I see that it only has even less, 780 words or whatever it may be. So these are hallucinations. So you're trusting something, looking at a real estate contract, and you already have an agent that's, of course, bound by law, bound by a code of ethics, bound by the rules of real estate to not deceive or change or modify or do anything outside of what you have agreed to. Therefore, it's probably really important to rely on that service professional that you've hired. However, having another set of eyeballs isn't a bad idea. If you go to another agent, they should be telling you that, oh, I'm sorry, you're in contract with someone else. I don't have the ability to comment on what they're doing in any way, shape, or form. That's between you and the agent you hired. If you wanted it different, you would have, of course, hired me, and I would be able to inform you. So a second set of eyeballs in our age range isn't a bad idea, and you can do this with all sorts of contracts. Now, is it going to be versed in contract law? Probably better than most people that you know, but again, look at the results, and then you can build on that and then ask your real estate agent these questions that are brought up. Would you mind answering these? Now, of course, I'm sure agents are going to start screaming because now all of a sudden there's more to do. But I believe that because the ChatGPTs of the world, these large language models, actually are the smartest person in the room to this point, and just getting smarter, it's not a bad thing to ask. And you can do this with a lot of things with regard to AI. So then we track back to the 80s and the 90s. When I got on the police department, we used to use things known as RD maps, maps that were reporting district maps. And for each of the geographical divisions in Los Angeles, we would have several pages. We would put them in a book. And then when we got a radio call, it would say this is happening in RD 15 whatever or 10 whatever. 15 happens to be the numeric for North Hollywood division, and each division in the city of Los Angeles had a particular numeric code. We would follow that with the other map portion, so it would show us where this property or where the place was located, where the incident was being called, whether it was domestic violence or shots fired, call a man with a gun, 187, which is a murder in progress, or 459 in progress, shoplifting call, whatever. If we weren't familiar with the street, and as you get into Mount Washington area, you get into the south end, it's a little bit easier because north, south, east, and west run numerically and then named depending on which direction you're going. So that makes sense. You can figure out 100 block south and east or even typically in the city of Los Angeles as memory serves. So we had the numeric and knew what side of the street to look on. However, back then, and I only bring that because back then the RD maps were gospel. But then after that, Thomas guides kind of became a thing. So people would look at Thomas guides, yet it's a much more cumbersome book, and the RD map was a little bit more simple. But then people would then rely on memory, and they would do this. The training officers would stop the car if you were brand new and usually say, oh my God, I've been shot. The radio's down. How do you communicate? Where are we? Let us know. Tell me exactly where we are. And if you were a brand new cop not paying attention, there would be a problem. And they would put that in your rating. You know, I faked an ambush, and my partner didn't know our location. And they were clever. They would drive, especially in the harder areas of the city. Mount Washington always comes to mind in Northeast Division because it's difficult to get in and get out of there. And it seems if you try to follow the streets that go downhill to leave Mount Washington, you only end up being even more. If you look at an area like Palmdale, which of course is the sheriff's department out there, but their streets run typically miles square. So from Avenue R to Avenue S, you have a mile, and between Avenue R and Avenue S, going from north to south, it really corresponds quite easily. And then you have a dividing point between west and east, which is Sierra Highway for the most part, or Division, just depends on kind of where you are. But that was the way to do it. Again, I'm bringing this up because the maps were something that the old timers didn't want to talk about. And now when I'm driving to Los Angeles or somewhere else, I try to rely on memory to get there. But again, it doesn't give me the traffic rules. It doesn't show me where the potential traffic problems are. So really, it's easier to go on an app and to make sure I'm taking the most efficient route to get where I'm going. You look at ChatGPT, I can put together an email. I can write a 3,000-word blog post about real estate. But with ChatGPT, I can take all the data, the sold inventory, for example, for residential real estate, 1 to 4 units, and I can really dial that down into single-family residences, everything detached, everything with a 2-car garage that has direct access, with maybe 2.5 bathrooms, so 2 full bathrooms upstairs, and downstairs a half guest bathroom. And I can put that into this model and say everything that's sold in Valencia in the last 180 days, I want you to extract this data for me and compile it and put it together in a way that I can have a video script, maybe a blog post, and all of these other items. So now I'm able to do so much more work by using the ChatGPT or the large language model in what I do. And you can do this as well with other things. If somebody fires you off, wanting to know justification for something that you've done to them in the life, you know, you can come up with the ideas as to why, but if you take that text message and plug it into ChatGPT, give it a little bit of background and say, this is why this text message was sent, tell me what a good response would be. You'd be surprised at how empathetic this system can become, and sympathetic if that's the route you want to go. If you want to respond with hostility, again, you can plug that information into ChatGPT and say, I don't want to respond as if I'm being kind and considerate. I want to respond because these people have been mean to me in the past, and I want to tell them where I stand and have my, of course, red line that I'm not going to cross. ChatGPT works out well in this regard. If you are of my 50s, have a look at it, feel around a little bit. I know Microsoft has Copilot. You have Grok as well. You have Gemini with Google, and then, of course, ChatGPT. I believe most of those systems have a paid-for model, and what that allows you to do maybe is more document uploading in PDF, and then some of them are a little more responsive and faster, but really just breaking into it's really going to give you a lot of interesting background and to your abilities if you'd like that. Now, I'm still stuck a lot in the old ways. I still like to drive without using maps. I still like to try to remember where all the streets are in Santa Clarita Valley or the San Fernando Valley or Los Angeles, where I worked for a long time as a police officer. So I still like that. But it's hard to beat when you have somebody leaving this location. They're using an automated system showing them the best routes, and they beat me home by over an hour because I'm stuck in the old ways. The old ways, new ways, something to think of. With Honor, this is AI with Honor. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching. Please leave your comments. What do you think? Do you think it's the lazy person's way, like when we were growing up in my age bracket, where they wouldn't let you use calculators at school? You had to figure out how to do it yourself without being aided by any kind of device. Maybe this is the same thing. I don't know. What do you think? Thanks for watching. Be well.